set out to recreate all 10 Best Picture nominees of this year. In part 1, I recreated these 5 including Barbie, but that left me with some of the hardest shots for this video. Like getting a camera underwater, setting a field on fire, or recreating this nuke again. And in 3, 2, 1, action. Before I had seen any of these movies, I watched the trailers to see if any shots stood out. For Maestro, there was one that caught my attention. This shot, done underwater. Of course, I have to be realistic. Finding a pool would be tricky enough, but getting a camera underwater? I mean, how do you do that safely? There'd be a huge risk with thousands of dollars on the line. It's impractical. Well, naturally, I started with underwater cameras, but you don't have to look long to realize that most phones are underwater cameras. Ish. Technically just water resistant, so there's a risk, but indie filmmaking, you know? However, it seems too simple, doesn't it? I want to get this camera underwater. To do that, we'd need to protect the camera with underwater housing, which costs hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So, what if we made our own? My idea is to use storage containers. They're probably not waterproof. Oh, there's water in there. That's not good. But we'd use tape to seal the container. And to be extra safe, we're taking our smaller container and sticking it into a larger container. Even if there was a leak in the larger container, it would take a long time to reach the camera. So that should be waterproof. But that wasn't the issue. Ugh, it's really not good. We can't shoot through this. I have one last idea though, one where the camera wouldn't need to be underwater. If we stuck a mirror at the right angle and shot at the mirror, could that work? There wasn't any time to test it. So I'll explain my plan as we go. The first hiccup in the plan came with cloudy weather. It meant we weren't getting these water caustics, which we need the sun for. Or a very powerful light.
Oh my god, I'm messy. So, hardly. Yeah.
It's very subtle. No matter what we tried, our light just couldn't match the sun. So our caustics were pretty difficult to see. Even on a cloudy day, the sky is very bright. So what if we tried to block the sky? We could make use of our pool cover. We just needed to find a way to rig it up. It took us over an hour to do. It may make swimming and using the camera more difficult, but at least we will get our caustics. Oh, that doesn't look much better. You know, we'll just come back to that part. You may be thinking, why go through all this work instead of just coming back on a sunny day? Well, this is today, the day we're shooting, and this is my wedding day. There's not a lot of time between those two dates, and I would really like to get this done before my wedding. We don't have a lot of time left, so let's move forward with the original plan. We're rigging the camera so that someone standing off to the side can wirelessly adjust the focus of the lens while the camera is in the water. We're then sticking that camera into a fish tank.
It's really raining.
Keeping it afloat, but also letting us see below the surface of the water. The only issue is that it's not a very deep shot like in the original. That's where the mirror comes in. We'd put the mirror deep underwater, angled to reflect the shot. We'd then angle the camera to point at the mirror, giving us our Maestro recreation. But reality is so much trickier. We need to precisely rig the mirror while 8 feet underwater, and even at this short distance, we can see the edges of the mirror. So we need a huge mirror, or maybe 2 mirrors would help? Didn't help. We only had about 30 minutes left to shoot, and we still had to revisit lighting. Our actress was having trouble syncing, and then it began to pour.
You picked a horrible day to shoot.
Well, I'm married now. We're gonna have to do this again, so here's what I learned for next time. Number 1, we can't control the lighting. We need a sunny day, and if it's not sunny, then we're just gonna roll with it, because I can't keep rescheduling this shoot. Number 2, I need to test things and come in with a clear plan. No more theoretical ideas. I need to know my next idea will work. But above all else, I completely overcomplicated this shot. To say that there isn't an inexpensive underwater camera housing isn't entirely true. There's this $100 option from Decapack. So why didn't I try this option sooner? Well, you can't control the camera.
Aha! That's on.
I mean, there are little finger holes, but it's really hard to make any adjustments with those.
Testing without the camera first. Hopefully this does not leak.
We'd also have to rely on the camera battery, which won't last long.
The interior is dry. Time to test with the camera.
But the real reason is because this is a glorified Ziploc bag,
I'm rolling. $4,000 on the line.
and I don't trust it.
Moment of truth. 3, 2, 1. Let's dry it off. Oh, there's water in there.
I see it.
Everything else looks fine.
Maybe I had just accidentally gotten water on the camera when taking it out, but there was no way to know for sure. And another test without the camera came out dry.
It still makes me really nervous, but it works, so we're gonna go with it. This is a horribly dirty pool.
There are 2 main challenges when trying to film underwater. The sun is cooperating with us today, so that's a very good sign. First is that both myself and the actress need to hold our breath, long enough to get into position and get the shot.
I got 10 seconds.
We're going to need some practice. The second challenge is that we both need to sink, which is surprisingly difficult. We'll need to be weighed down. This could get very dangerous. So we're going to do some tests. For the actress, the weights will need to be hidden, so we clipped small ones to the back of her pants and kept her in the shallow end. For me, sandbags would work. We tried a few things, but putting them on my feet worked the best, and I'd be able to kick them off if I couldn't swim up. I needed a pole to grab onto when coming up, and we were ready to test this with a phone. Do not try this at home. Now, we just need the camera.
That was really good.
This is the part I was dreading all day. One little tear, one little mistake, something not sealed correctly, and I could lose it all in an instant. But clouds were starting to roll in, and the sun was starting to go behind the trees, so there was no time for caution.
I feel good about it.
This one won't be easy. It's hard to know exactly where to start, but I think it helps to think about this one in layers. It all starts with a plain dirt field. And then our first layer, the farmers. They're up on a slight hill with the camera at the bottom of the hill. The original image is also very compressed, so we'll use a long lens, the DZOFilm Lenses 125mm. That's looking like a good start. Oh, and it's nighttime. Our next layer is the background of fire and smoke. The reality is, we can't light a field on fire. It'd be way too dangerous, so we're gonna have to rely on some tricks. By using a smoke machine, we can create a wall of smoke. We'd then set up lights, set to a warmer color and flickering like fire to shine into the smoke from behind. This is called backlighting, and when smoke is backlit, it becomes illuminated, just like the original background. However, this won't be so easy when scaled up. We need a smoke machine powerful enough for the outdoors, and then a generator to power it and the lights. If there's too much wind, the smoke will go all over and the shot won't work. So I'm really hoping this idea works. Oh, Our final layer is this heat distortion across the whole shot, which is what really makes the shot unique. This was done in front of the camera using gas pipes and fire to create a foreground layer. I'm using little propane canisters for the miniature, but again, once you scale up, looking at it on camera, it's pretty subtle, and that's just because there's not enough heat. So onto something a little bit bigger. The final step for this heat waves effect is that the focus is set to the heat waves and not the farmers. Yeah, there it is. Fire is definitely the way to go. We just need more of these. But none of this matters if we can't answer the first question: where do we get a field? I think this field will work just fine. I did not just decide to use a random field. I know the person who owns this field and we have permission to use it. The only issue is that he's about to plant crops in this field, so we have one shot to do this and we need to do it soon. Here we go. Since this is the only chance we'll have to shoot this, I made sure we got out there extra early so we'd be ready to shoot by dark. It's windy, oh frick.
So windy?
It's so windy. And to work around any unexpected hurdles. We got the camera set up. We need to dig a trench for these fire pits because they're in camera right now. Tested the heat distortion.
Oh, wow. That's working.
Found a way to block the wind. And all before dark. We just needed our smoke and lights, so it was time to bring out a generator. But I had made one mistake when prepping for this shoot.
Okay, I have no clue how this guy works. I guess we give it a shot? Moment of truth. Oh, maybe not. Hold on.
I never tested the fog machine.
I can't figure this thing out.
Without this fog machine, there's no getting this shot.
As of right now, it's just a keep trying sort of situation.
And it was getting darker.
I have an idea. We're gonna put that nozzle in distilled water.
But nothing was working.
Can I get the other fog machine?
It was looking bad.
So what if we get some water in this thing? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pulse it. Pulse. Hey! That's much better.
But the time had already been lost.
Okay, because of the way the wind is blowing, we have to rotate our shoot.
We have to set up everything again in the dark.
Frick, man. Striking!
We set up the lights, angling them to catch the smoke as it blew across the field.
That works!
And then we moved everything else.
We're gonna move pretty fast. Okay. As far as we can go. Hit it. Oh, shoot.
Is this what a typical Will film shoot is like?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Once the fires were lit, we only had until the wood was gone. It's just not bright enough.
Everybody move right just a tiny bit.
This was the hardest shot I've ever tried to recreate.
I think we'll call that a wrap. Let's go!
Recreating any shot from this movie would be incredibly interesting. But there was one shot in the movie that appeared over and over again. Well, not a specific shot, but an effect. This swirly background effect. And I had to know, how? What I found is that it's actually not an effect, but a lens called a Petzval lens. Or, as my wife likes to call it,
a pretzel lens.
And for poor things, they used Petzval lenses from Lomography. I just needed to buy one. So I decided to reach out and see if they'd send one out to me. And they said yes. So let's talk about what Petzval lenses do. We'll start with a normal spherical lens. Right now the focus is set to our lights. Adjust the focus and we get these bright orbs called bokeh. It's something that happens when bright points of light are brought out of focus on camera. The key to Petzval lenses is the bokeh. So let's swap to one. With a Petzval lens, the bokeh swirls around the center of the image, more exaggerated at the edges of the frame. Here's a comparison. This effect only happens with bokeh though, meaning that when I pull focus back to the lights, the swirly effect is mostly gone. That creates this really neat effect where your background swirls around, but your subject is crisp and clear. That's 50% of the shot right there. The other 50% is the costume, and we need to build it from scratch. So I pulled up the still and shot deck to analyze, which is today's sponsor. I think we can break this costume down into two main parts, the blue outer layer, and then this bundle of fabrics in the front. So we'll need to go shopping. I'm no costume designer, so I'm using the Shot Deck app to make sure we're buying similar materials to the original. Having a high-quality reference like this was essential in recreating every shot in this Oscars project, because whenever I tried screenshotting the movie, it just ended up as a black screen. So I used Shot Deck to search each movie and quickly find the shots I wanted to recreate. Then I have all this information I can use for shooting, color grading, and costume building, which consisted of me just cutting and pinning fabrics to look like the original. I don't just use Shot Deck to recreate shots though, I use it to inspire my own cinematography. Either by just browsing until I find something I like, or by searching for something specific. Like, here's a bunch of ways to shoot in a car, or here are silhouettes. These filters can help me narrow it down, and boom, there's the shot. I can then send that still as a reference to anyone who's helping out on the shoot, or create a deck and build a whole mood board or shot list. Use the link in the description for a 2-week free trial, and if you love it, then use my code WHB for 25% off of your subscription. Thank you Shot Deck for sponsoring this portion of the video and for helping me with the costume. It definitely looks like a mess, but it only matters how it looks on camera. The rest was finding a spot and getting the shot. Oh, right. And we threw a basketball at our actress too.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good, you're good.
Okay, let's begin.
Being the only comedy besides Barbie, I knew what I needed to talk about. Something that's in virtually every shot of the movie. High-key lighting. To explain what high-key lighting is, we'll start with the basics. You can break lighting down into 3 main lights. The key light is the main light on the actor and often the brightest light. The fill light is opposite the key light. It's meant to fill in the shadows, hence fill light. The backlight lights up the back of the actor. This helps separate your actor from the background. This is traditional 3-point lighting, but these lights can be anywhere, such as a key light above me and a fill light from below, or a backlight that's hitting the background instead of me. Dramatic movies will often use something called low-key lighting. The fill light is often very dim, or sometimes completely absent. You may end up with the key light really far to the side, not lighting much of the face, or only backlighting to create a silhouette. This is to create a visibly darker image overall, which communicates a tonal darkness. High-key lighting is the opposite. Your fill light ends up about as bright as your key light, and both are quite bright. The background will generally also be brighter, which reduces the areas of darkness in the image and makes things feel far more lighthearted. So let's move forward with the shot. The first step to this shot is this whiteboard in the background. But we don't need a whiteboard, just something white like this projector screen I borrowed from a friend. We just taped on some paper to recreate this writing so we didn't ruin the screen. Since it's all out of focus, you can barely tell the paper is there. Okay, you can kind of tell, but we'll fix that later. Let's move to lighting. The key light is this large soft light from the side, which the natural light from the window is already doing a great job of. We do need some fill light though, so I used an Amaran 60X, bounced off the wall to soften it a little, making it look more natural. There's one more type of light I didn't talk about earlier called an eye light. That's this little light in the actor's eyes, and we just held up an Aperture MC to match this. I gave our actor my glasses, and we have our shot. Except we can see the edge of the screen. But the joys of having a plain background is that extending that background is a piece of cake. Of course, we saved the Oscar winner for last. If you're one of the 5 million people who saw this video, then you know we've already recreated some shots from Oppenheimer. However, when we did those shots, we were just making guesses on how Nolan did them. Since then, there's been a lot more information on how they were actually done. There was one effect we did that I still wasn't happy with. The nuke. The fireball didn't look like it was expanding, just slowly moving. And the rolling shockwave of dirt looked more like dirt just popping up. So what better way to finish this video off than to recreate this nuclear explosion again? Last time I did every effect in camera. No CGI, no VFX, which meant the fireball and shockwave had to be filmed simultaneously. However, reading articles and seeing this footage, it looks like these two things are filmed separately and then combined in post. This is called compositing. So, we'll do the same. We already have a fireball built from last time. We can just use it again, set up with an Aperture MC inside like before. But this time, we'll be able to animate it to look like it's expanding in post. For the shockwave, we'll do something similar to this. We just need to figure out how to build it. This is the final challenge. One last shot. So let's make it count. Our idea was to string fishing line between two small wooden blocks. We'd place them at the edge of a raised surface with metal bars clamped above to create makeshift rails. This would keep the fishing line taut. We'd then hook bungee cords to the blocks and yank them quickly, kicking up dirt along the surface like a shockwave.
Alright, do it.
Honestly,
That worked.
I'm surprised that worked. This is for sure an improvement from last time. We came back later to shoot.
Striking.
Let's get the DZO 90mm macro. Let's talk about filming miniatures. Since this is a miniature, everything we use has to be scaled down. That means real dirt is too big, so we need a finer powder like cocoa powder, which we used last time. When shooting something small and close, you get a very shallow focus, which is a giveaway that ours is a miniature. The only way to fix this is by closing the aperture of the lens, which makes the shot darker. So I'm grabbing the Amaran 300C, which is the brightest light I own.
And in 3, 2, 1, action.
There's still more.
That
Do not touch
anything.
You know how big things move slow? In a miniature, everything is moving too fast to look big, so we'll need to shoot in slow motion. The only issue is that this makes the shot darker, so we need more light again.
Can't stand it.
That's crazy! It looks good, but we're not really seeing layers, so we'll backlight the dirt, separating each layer of the shockwave. Now, with everything in place, it's time to see how close we can get.
Action. Go. 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 Go.
But we're still not done yet. I'm recording this on August 31st, the day I post this video. Everything you've seen in this video was edited prior to this moment. Everything except this Oppenheimer shot. This is my first time working on it. There's no more time to reshoot. This is the very last step. From shooting to editing, this project has taken up 5 months of my life, but I'm so grateful I got to do it and share it with you. Thank you for the support. The names you're seeing on screen are all the people who helped me on this project. I couldn't have done it without them. Finally, consider subscribing because I have much more in store.